Hey traders, Jason with Day Trading Fearless. In this video, we're going to talk about how to find supply and demand trade levels. Now, this is going to be different than trade zones or support and resistant levels. These are more of levels where we have a imbalance, right? And one of the things is these are really, really important levels to keep track of. And I'm going to show you guys why in this video. So with that being said, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive right into it. So what exactly is a supplier demand zone? Well, think of it as a imbalance level where price kind of takes off like a rocket ship, okay? Or falls, as you'll see, like a rocket ship. And here's a couple good examples. We see price kind of go down here, right? And then work its way up. And then we start to trade sideways, right? And then all of a sudden you have a huge spike higher. Big green candles, right? Think of this as the launch pad right here, okay? And then the rocket ship kind of taking off and going higher, okay? With these are all flames coming out, right? And this is the rocket ship just kind of going higher. And what we have here are just pure green candles, right? Just an up move, strong buying. We see the same thing here, just on the downside, right? We see consolidation here, price going sideways. Think of it as a market profile with the point of control right here, okay, where the most volume traded. And then all of a sudden, you just have a big, powerful red candle, boom, sell-off, right? And the logic behind these trade zones is when price comes back to retest, there are going to be buyers, right? And here's a really good example. We could kind of say, hey, this was a trade zone, okay? Or sorry, a demand supply zone. And when price got up, what did it do? Sellers came in, okay? And they start to short. So we see these a lot of times over and over and over. We even see here, look at this, right? Sideways action right here, okay? And then what happens is it falls, right? Price falls. And then when we come back up to retest that level, what happens? Price reverses. So I would draw a demand zone right here, right? Looking for demand. So if price kind of works its way back down to these levels, okay, then I would expect price to kind of bounce and go up higher. So it's just kind of, think of it this way. Another way is it's the scene of the crime, right? Meaning like a news event, a Fed, we see it a lot of times in the Fed announcement or news where you have a parabolic move one way and then price over the next day or two works its way back to the scene of the crime and then it takes off, right? Or it completely fails. It's the same logic as this pattern right here where price breaks higher, but then it comes back to retest this prior high, right? And then price takes off, price retests, comes back to that prior high, fills it in, and then goes up. And then we see it happen again here and so on, right? It happens over and over and over. And it's just a kind of back and fill, refilling. Sometimes the market will get a little too hyper and extend one way too quickly. And then it has to kind of come back into balance and retest those levels, right? So that's all it is. Now, there are people out there that say, oh, this is where all the institutions wanted to buy. Listen, it's not where all the institutions wanted to buy, right? Yeah, they might have wanted to buy here, but guess what? When price was there, they didn't buy. Right? And then price got away from them. It doesn't mean because it got away, they're going to come and they still have their orders 2 or 3 days later, right? It's just more of this is a level of the scene of the crime, and you see it over and over in so many different news events, right? If you want to help support my channel, get some education and also weekly trade levels, then make sure you check out my $99 S&P Future weekly trade zone and video course bundle. You will receive support and resistant trade levels every single weekend, and you will get my top 5 trading strategy video course bundle with my top 5 trade strategies that I use on a daily basis. So for more information, check the link down below or go to daytradingfearless.com. But back to the video. And so price comes back down. It's not like they still have those big orders 3 days later sitting on the book. And I know this because I see the book. When price gets back down here, there's only 200 contracts on the book. Okay, well, all day long, there's 200 at every price, right? So that's not what's really happening. It's just a story that people actually give and tell about supply and demand zones. But what they are is it's an imbalance. And I've talked about fair value gaps, right? Here's a fair value gap right here, okay, where you kind of have a supply zone, okay, right above here. Okay, here's a nice supply zone, and then you have fair, and usually those fair value gaps will come back into play, right? And they'll come back up, and then once it's filled all this area up, okay, because it was such a big, powerful move, it went back to the scene of the crime like it does here. What happens? Price continues back lower, right? But here you have this imbalance, right? And think of it as a market profile, a bell-shaped curve with the most volume traded right in the middle, right? And so what happens is when price gets back to this level, well, guess what? It's just like a high volume node, where as price comes up, it gets rejected because that's, think of it as a branch. So that's kind of what the demand and supply zones are. And a good way to look for these is look for big moves like this, right? You see kind of a little sideways action, then a big drop. Well, the way you want to draw these is the big candle, right? Whichever candle, the one right before that low to the high of the highest high, okay, is going to be how you draw that supply or demand zone. Like I said, they're different than my trade zones that I offer and all that, but these are levels that when price gets back up, you could watch for a resistance. Now, I actually draw these every single day, and I have a lot of them, and you could see it's usually right when, actually that's a trade zone. Let's go to a support zone, right? Something like this, right? You see kind of sideways action, candle, and then a big drop. Well, you want to use essentially the low of all those in the high, and this is going to act as your resistance, right? Because look at what happens. Big drop, and then a pullback, come, and then fail, right? Same thing here. We actually have a supply zone based on a 15-minute chart. Here's all the sideways action. Here's that big red candle. You want to start your draw from this candle, that low, to the highest peak, and that now becomes your supply zone. So hopefully that video really helps to understand how to draw supply and demand zones. I try and keep a track of them. I'll use 15-minute, I'll use daily, hourly, things like that, right? I kind of chart them out, I leave them, and I actually say we have some trade zones down here with demand zones, right? So I actually have a 2-hour demand zone plus a trade zone, okay, which is telling me, hey, this is very, very strong. Other zones I have a 2 hour, another 2 hour demand zone based on a 2 hour chart, right? So if I come over here and I look at a 2 hour chart, and we're going to look at this level right here, look at this big power move, right? Here's the launch pad. This is all the launch pad, and here's the rocket ship going up, right? And so what happens is when we come back to that level, okay, usually buyers, it's the scene of the crime because price went sideways and then had that powerful move, right? So if we come back into this level, this is where I want to look to be a buyer. And look at what happened with this, right? We came right before that level, and instead of it coming to that zone exactly, sometimes it'll come up short, sometimes it'll touch exactly, go into the zone, but look at the move we had off that major supply or a demand zone down there. So hopefully you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments, do you guys use support resistance or demand zones and supply zones? So as always, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.